Now I think we should turn it over to you, Dongman.
All right.
It's a good start, a lot of the basics, but now take us more toward Korean implications.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Dongman Lee. I'm currently the professor at KAIST and also the chairman of the Korean Internet Governance Alliance and also Government Review Committee. Later, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more detail. Glad to be here, and I'd like to share the brief history of the Korean Internet governance, including Korean Internet starting point. As a matter of fact, if my memory is correct, this year is the 40th anniversary of the Korean Internet starting point. And then I was very proud and happy to that I was one of the members who initiated the Korean Internet as the graduate student. And the one thing I would like to share and to mention with you, the Professor Kilam Chun, who is recognized as the father of the Korean Internet and Asian Internet, and he was also my advisor. And I joined his lab in '82, and we were just the center of the Korean Internet. I would say the startup, and I really miss him. And Pari and Greg, they actually originally approached the Professor Kilam Chun, and they couldn't get a hold of him. I was also trying to, but in some areas, he's now these days working as the hermit. So we don't know where he is, but he's working hard. Just for your information. Anyway, so phase one, I just kind of put it the phase in my there's no official phasing the division. I just kind of the first phase. At the starting point, internet incubation and promotion. We started at '82, first in the connection, and then mostly the working on is internet buildup, and then we joined as the domain world. So .kr is I think it's 85 or something like that, and then so mostly just the Professor Kilam Chun and the academic the support. And the uses until '97 is the research domain. And initially, .kr managed by KAIST at the academic institution. Later, it was transferred to a national agency called Information Agency, NIA, in 1994. And as the Wolfgang mentioned, in 1998, the birth of the ICANN, and we also trying to synchronize. So Professor Kilam Chun initiated convinced the government, well, we need to have this similar structure in Korea. So we need to start the real internet governance. So part of that, the government spin off the NIC, National the Internet Center. So KLIG was born in 1998 out of the NIA, and we had a similar structure to ICANN. So we formed the name. The NNC is name and number and name committee under the KLIG. And well, as a matter of fact, the KLIG, even though it's a government agency, but run as the private organization. That was quite interesting. So we pretty much, and it's the number and name committee and also the name committee. So the focus on the domain name. And also we had something similar, IETF, RFC, standardized all the new domain names and the IP addresses and so on. And after that, 2004, government, I don't know why, but suddenly realized, oh, internet is public resources, so we need to do some regulation on that. So they passed the bill on internet address resource regulation. So that was the starting point of I would say, is some black age. So KLIG, partially private organization, now it's completely a government, the subsidized organization called NIDA, National Internet Development Agency. So it is solely supported by the national law, and they formed the government initiate the committee, so-called Internet Address Policy Review Committee. And then, well, NNC does the private, the driven, the internet governance, the organization, well, it's not actual organization, is the people together and convinced, well, we need to have the, not only just, because Internet Address Policy Review Committee, the members are handpicked by government. So it is not really, multi-stakeholder driven. So we asked the government, well, let's have another structure so that we can actually look at the governance issues and work with the government peacefully. So they agreed to have the subcommittee, but it only lasts 2 years because, well, simply speaking, is government, they don't want to have the pinpoint and ask some they felt some kind of the disturbance their policy making. So unfortunately, no further activity with the private sector till 2009. And personally, I approached every time there's new director came into the government, and I said, well, you guys need to start, work with the all different, the stakeholders, and they didn't listen. In 2009, and the NIDA merged with the security agency, and then they allowed the private sector participant, but very interesting name. So I don't know what that means, but this name, and then but very limited the multi-stakeholder participations, because still majority of the people were the appointed by the government and the government agencies. But we actually work hard, and then the 2013 or 14 that the Brazilian the president then initiated that another the perspective of the internet governance, and so government realized this is not only just the government needs to take the important role, but also need to invite the private sectors, academias, and the civil society, and so on. So they agreed to have, okay, let's work together. So it's the rebirth of, I would call the multi-stakeholder based internet governance placeholder. We call the names Korean Internet Governance Alliance, the KIGA. There's a homepage, as you, well, next, if you have time, please visit our homepage. And this is the summary of. So starting as the network operation committee, but now we have full structure of the multi-stakeholder model based the internet governance of the organization. So KIGA has done several work. Its structure is we have the steering committee, and based on the bottom up the nomination, and we currently have the 16 members in the steering committee. Nominated by the spectrum of the internet stakeholders, academia, civil society, technology, business, and government sectors. Unfortunately, we don't have many, the participants from business sector. So we try to expand. We hope the number from business sector will grow. Because next presentation is Mr. Bong Nam Yoon. He's going to talk about the new amendment, which will actually expand the participation from various, the sectors. And we had 3 subcommittees, mostly the internet address names that the focus on the domain name related issues. And we have another one, KRIGF. Every year we hold this IGF meeting under the KR. Is great success. It's already over 5 years. And recently we formed a new subcommittee, talk about data and AI governance. And we had the many working groups upon request, as you see. We'll talk about the governance process, structure and policy development process. Interestingly, we also work on by the request of ICANN, language generation rules. So we were the first one, finished the rule generation on the top level domain and passed by the ICANN. So these are the work we did and the many things. But at final, the mention I would like to add is we successfully convinced the government and change the current internet resource regulation to accommodate diversity in the committee, and also talk about not only just the domain names and IP address expanded to internet governance relate to the internet address. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dong Hwa. That's really very helpful and good to bring it to much more to the Korean context. We should have time for a little conversation later, but now I think we should listen to Boknam, right?
Yes.
Will you take it from here, Boknam, and say a word about yourself at the beginning?
Hi,
Yes.
everyone. My name is Boknam Yoon. I'm a Korean attorney, and I also chairman of Internet Address Subcommittee of KIGA, which Dongman Lee also already introduced. My presentation today will be the meaningful change in Korean internet governance. Recently, the Internet Address Resources Act 2004, which is registered 2004, and stated that the ultimate authority on domain name policies lay with the Korean government has been revised to incorporate the spirit of multi-stakeholderism in domain name policies. This represents a meaningful change in Korea's domain name policies and was the result of many years of tenacious efforts of KIGA and its members. My presentation will introduce what the meaningful change is and the new tasks that such changes pose to the Korean internet governance community. Okay, my presentation is divided in 4 parts. In the first part, I will provide a general overview of the Korean internet governance mechanism. In the second part, I will introduce the Internet Address Resources Act 2004. Third, I will describe the recent revision that have been made to the Internet Address Resources Act. In the last section, I will provide you with the issues facing the Korean internet community going forward. Let me start with the first section. The present Korean internet governance mechanism consists of 3 parts. First, the major decisional body is the government, which is mainly the Ministry of Science and ICT. Second, the management body is KISA, Korea Internet and Security Agency, a governmental subsidiary agency. Third, there are 2 policy consulting organizations. One is official organization, Internet Address Review Committee or Deliberation Committee. It's legal and 4 times for 1 year. The other is KIGA, already mentioned, Dongman Lee. This governance mechanism reflects the structure established by the Internet Address Resources Act. The 2004 Internet Address Resources Act established mechanism of internet domain name governance that could be described as very unique for a democratic country. Before the legislation of the act in 2004, domain name policies in Korea were determined by organization NNC, and which is various stakeholders participate in voluntary basis. But Dongman Lee already said the government official think the domain name is public property, so they is not handled by the private sector. They do not want to. So 2 years debate is very hard between the government and the private sector. The government was successful and legislating and enacting the Internet Address Resources Act 2004. A key component of 2004 Act is decision regarding domain name policies in Korea would be government-led and be determined by a mostly top-down process. So, as a result, voluntary activities of the private sector were inevitably weakened. Okay. However, sustained efforts on the part of a group of people and had played a central role in the voluntary organization prior to the 2004 legislation result in the revision of the 2004 Act and Korean National Assembly on December 9, 2021. The new revision will take effect in July this year. This brings me to the third part of my presentation. One of the major revisions of Internet Address Resources Act is the name change and the role change. Internet Address Policy Deliberation Committee will rename the Internet Address Policy Committee, and it get a voting right, not only consultation, but also voting rights. And the second major change is the multi-stakeholder mechanism is being strengthened. The revision that was approved clearly states that is equal participation of each stakeholder. The third major change is the current KR League will be legal entity within KISA. KISA is currently responsible not only the domain name policy but also internet security and general internet development policy. Consequently, domain name related policies are handled by small organizations within KISA and does not have legal status. The revised law will elevate the status of KR League to a body within KISA. So we hope the powerful to the strength of our committee. As a result, the Korean internet community is faced with the responsibility of finalizing the specific degree of legislation and to contribute further to the development of Korean internet governance. This is my last part of my presentation. What are the next steps facing the Korean internet community? First of all, we need to the new formation of a new committee by July. Although the government has the final authority on the selection of members of KIGA, but KIGA is working to ensure that the bottom-up recommendation process is properly upheld. Second, the presidential decree accompanying the revision status in the Internet Address Resources Act need to be formulated. KIGA has already submit of that decree. The draft contains bottom-up recommendation process, the new task of the committee, and the secretariat of the committee. Finally, we need to engage discussion regarding new domain name policies. For example, the new .kr quiz policy and reviewed on management system of domain and IP address. This concludes my brief presentation on the meaningful changes in Korean internet governance. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Now I think we do have time for a little bit of a conversation roundtable. Over to you, Patty.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we had really 4 distinguished speakers. I am grateful to the presentation you all gave. It was very enlightening on all accounts. And so I am looking at our chat room. The first question I can see there is, It says from Puran, it says it would be good to get perspectives on how can net neutrality be secured given its overall positioning deep into geopolitics and more recently into disinformation to destabilize democracies. Who wants to take this question?
A good hard question. As we know, we're all grappling.
Well, recently, in Korea, well, depending on how you look at it, but I see as part of the network neutrality issue, the Netflix versus the SK Telecom. So who needs to actually be responsible for passing data on the wire, right? So, but the telecommunication companies, well, the content provider is responsible. Content provider, well, we only just kind of providing service, passing packets, and the transportation is whole responsibility of the internet provider. So but well, if you expand that issue, because Netflix is a big, the content provider, but if you apply the same principle to all the content providers, it's an issue of well, why not they talking about the small content provider, only just talking to the big one, right? So, but network neutrality issue is very, I would say, the subtle issue. So, well, frankly speaking, I don't have any the perfect solution. But it requires the international collaboration. We need to share a lot of the ideas across the country domains. Thank you.
Which brings me to this question that how would you compare the multi-stakeholder model to multilateral model?
Typically think of multilateral as many states, and multi-stakeholder as many organizations, including but not limited to states. And so how we think about the contrast or coordination of those two different mechanisms seems to me to be pretty fundamental as we think about internet governance, which is tended to be pretty much multilateral, but the internet is mostly private sector. And so bringing the governments who want to have a claim together with the private sector that basically runs the show, seems to me that's the continuing challenge.
Yeah, exactly. So we always have the same issue whenever we talk about more participation from the private sectors, and government always saying, well, show the representation. There's a multilateral, representation the government always want to have.
And I think multi-stakeholder is more of bottom-up when multilateral is top-down model. And I think the two needs to complement one another.
I think multi-stakeholder model makes states, governments, one of the participants in the decision-making process. So there is no monopoly or there is no centrality that state parties participate. So multi-stakeholder model by nature is bound to be international, bound to be, there can be 3 or 4 different state parties participating. So I think multi-stakeholder model has more potential for internet governance. And that has been the process. IGF is exactly what you is the case in point. There's no one state that's dominating over the international scene. Many states are cooperating just as ICANN and civil society and technical communities are participating on equal footing. I think the question on net neutrality is a little bit separate from this distinction between multi-stakeholder and multilateral, right, Perry? I mean, you didn't ask the question. Okay, all right. So just to, Dongman asked me to answer the question about net neutrality. There is, I think, just to make it short, I say Korea has a split internet, in a sense that Korea has its own law of how ISPs pay for traffic with one another. Around the world, we use a bill and keep model, where wherever you obtain internet access service, the ISP giving you the internet is responsible for making sure that you can communicate with all the computers that are online.
Yes.
And as long as you pay that access fee, that flat access fee, at the speed and at the connection capacity that you purchase, you are supposed to be able to connect with all the computers that are online, unless some of the computers, some of the servers are blocked by the governments that have jurisdiction on those servers. Now, Korea has instituted from 2016 standing party network pays rule, where you pay for traffic, the traffic that you send, like you pay for telephone charges. That has caused a lot of disconnect between ISPs and content providers, ISPs and domestic content providers, and also disconnect between ISPs and foreign content providers. And what you see between Netflix and SK Broadband right now is exactly that. And now this rule that you pay for traffic, you have to pay to have your traffic delivered to a certain point on the net, goes against the net neutrality, because net neutrality requires you not to discriminate, not just on content, but even financially. You cannot, you are not supposed to be, you should not be required to pay to have your traffic delivered faster or delivered at all.
Yes.
And that rule, the 2016 rule, has really threw a monkey wrench into the or the spanner into how the internet traffic has been processed and paid for. Many state parties are actually causing this disinformation, as you can see in Russia on Ukrainian war. But also many state parties are responding to the concerns of disinformation by quickly adopting the ability to block certain websites that they believe or that they designate as sources of this information. And those blockings also, I think, have implications for net neutrality, because net neutrality requires you not to discriminate based on content. Of course, I mean, net neutrality, there can be always exceptions to net neutrality, where the government believes a certain website is a source of illegal information. Yes, they can do it, but a lot of times these blockages are done without reliance on legal evaluation. So yes, there is a connection between disinformation and net neutrality, and also this ability of the government to require payment for delivery of internet traffic that was instituted in Korea can also be easily abused to stop traffic of certain content as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, recently we had election in South Korea. How would that impact the policies towards internet? Any comment on that?
Well, we'll see. It's too early to talk about anything, because there's a lot of tension between the current government and the incoming government. So, well, we don't know. It's very, very strange situation.
And presumably these issues haven't been much of an issue in the campaign, or have they been?
The Democratic Party, which just lost the presidential election, have been more pronounced than the party that just won the election in emphasizing sovereignty on the internet. Basically, ability of the state parties to control the traffic and content.
But the problem is, go
So
ahead.
I expect this movement for the data sovereignty or internet sovereignty to soften after the presidential election, but we'll see, because it's not that the this new party has really opposed internet sovereignty movement.
Yeah, I'd like to share the optimism of Kyangshin, but the issue is the government officials, they don't change, right? So no matter how many government, the presidency comes in, but the government people is the same. So as Perry mentioned a few minutes ago, the multilateral, multi-stakeholder, that's always issue in Korean governance, internet governance, the matters. Because the government are always asking multilateral approach. We asking the multi-stakeholder, but we'll see. The new government, I hope the new government is more open to a multi-stakeholder based bottom approach.
To be continued, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
So we are running out of time. I want to thank everyone. We now have 10 minutes break before starting the second session. Thank you.